All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight. And we have a very important topic tonight. So,
Yeah.
the title of our topic is Who Protects Women? And we're going to take this at another angle. And it's not, the obvious question is, family, husbands, men, or what have you. But um, we're going to dive deeper into this topic and then explain more of what we mean, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah. In particular, our internet is acting. We got a storm going on, so our internet is a little off. So we're gonna have to do this a little different than we usually we have our camera for Instagram and YouTube all hooked up, but it's not tonight. So YouTube won't be able to get Instagram won't get our the added benefit of being on the YouTube screen or whatever. So that and our internet being a little weird, but we're all here either way.
Yep.
So let's dive on in. In particular, like we were saying, this question has been floating around a lot, especially after these recent trending events with the whole Brickgate scandal, whatever you want to call that. But in particular, I think, like my husband was saying, this is more of an important question that I myself asked God and asked myself, deep, genuinely trying to figure out who protects women, especially at a young age. I was a young girl on the streets. I didn't have a father who was active in my life. Some women get that benefit. But for those who don't, who aren't as fortunate, who don't have that guidance, or even worse, who don't have family in general, who protects those women? And in particular, how do you protect yourself as a woman? That's really, I think, the most important question that should be asked. And when I asked myself that, the honest, put it on everything, I think I was like 8 years old. And I literally was trying to figure out, like, how do you protect yourself as a young girl trying to figure out life? And to be honest, I heard to be a wife, genuinely. And I know some may argue, oh, marriage is not a guarantee of protection for women. Sure, there are those cases where you have domestic violence, where you have, abuse in some form within the marriage. But that's not what I'm talking about here, because in particular, marriage in its highest form, in its genuine highest form, not the contract, but the sacred union between a man and a woman. With this sacred union that was designed by God, it was set place to protect women. And now, unfortunately, with the decline in marriage rates, in particular of women, Black women, and other races are seeing it as well, but that also means that women are now missing a huge layer of protection that they need.
And just to add it, we're talking about here in the United States.
Yeah.
This
Even
is
here.
no,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about. We're talking
Yeah.
about here in the United States. So
Right.
not Africa or
Right.
the Middle East, because they life is different there.
Right. But even still, in those forms, you see how God really wanted the man and the woman together to have that layer of protection for a woman. Even in those forms, even back like tribal times, native times, you didn't see a woman on her own expecting her to, have the same layer of protection like a woman with a man with her,
What is she protecting
or a part
herself
of a
from?
tribe. Well, let's dig into that tonight in modern forms. That's really what we're going to talk about tonight in modern forms in particular. And then you'll be able to get something from this conversation as well, because believe it or not, a lot of the protections that a woman receives is also very much a benefit to the man as well. And in particular, in this modern time, is kind of what we're going to dig on into and pull up actually some articles, some new recent articles that we've seen. So let's hold on. I'm going to add these in so our YouTube people can see them, because we are going to pull up some articles tonight to really talk about this, really put things into perception.
Yep. So, and as always, this is a live show. So if you all have any questions or comments or topics that you would like us to talk about, please, by all means, hit those chat boxes, comments, submit a question through our wifeconomics.com/submit a question page, and we will do our best to try to discuss.
Yeah.
You can also join in, call in, or what have you. So let's continue.
Yes. Yeah. So in the first form, women receive protection right off back in the form of financial security when she's married. We always know that. You look at married couples having a higher income combined than, of course, unmarried couples. But in particular, we wanted to pull up this to start this off, to really kind of set the tone for what we're talking about. Marriage really provides women with more financial security in retirement, especially in retirement. And in particular, now a new article came out today about the Congressional Budget Office forecast, which talks about the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which will be exhausted in 2032. So what the heck am I talking about, right? This is where it also impacts men as well. So let me see. I want to pull this side by side so we can really. Is this up? Why is this acting like that? There we go. Okay. So this article in particular just came out today. If you, of course, Instagram, y'all can check us out on YouTube if you want to see this, but we're going to keep you up to date as we go along anyway. So the article was entitled, "Cutting Social Security Will Hurt Millennials and Gen Z's Ability to Save and Retire." This came out today, September 12th, 2023. Really sparked my attention. I was like, what? Anyways, it says for 4 in 10 retirees, Social Security provides at least half of their income. That provides, to put this in a little more perspective, that's like 90% of what a retired person usually would depend on. So according to this new Congressional Budget Office, the OASI, yeah, that's better, Old Age Survivors Insurance, talked about how this is, of course, the social insurance program, which financially supports the unemployed, disabled, and retired individuals. This talks about how this money will be exhausted in 2032. That's big, considering Social Security benefits over 66 million Americans in 2022. That's 10 years from now.
It was 9.
9 years from now. Exactly. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
That, I don't know. I'm sorry, but that is huge when it talks about strategies. Is trying to figure out, well, for one, both the Republicans and Democrats coming up with their own strategies of how to fix this. But we're talking about Social Security being gone within less than 10 years. What does this look like for retired people? And in particular, why this article stood out to me a lot was because of the recent articles we're also going to bring up within the past couple months, talking about how baby boomers are now one of the biggest generation to retire homeless. That's huge. That is huge when we're talking about the state of Americans, like, and how we look in old age. One of your most vulnerable time. So, hold on. Let me see. Wait. Sorry. As you can tell, I'm also very passionate about this, partially because I'm a woman, of course. But, this is a very, very important topic that we need to talk about. And I don't even think, of course, we always talk about the angle of protection from, physical abuse from other things and whatnot. But this is another huge avenue in which a huge space in which a woman needs to be protected. Men need to be protected. But as we dig a little deeper, women in particular, tonight being our topic, women in particular need to think further ahead about your life and what things are going to look like for you in old age. One of the main things that they were talking about in this article was that one of the proposed benefits of trying to make sure that this money doesn't run out is increasing retirement age to 70 years old.
Right, and it's currently 65. I remember when the retirement age was 62 in the United States. I don't know what year it was, but then they increased it to 65, and now they're talking about 70 years old. So it goes back to those videos that I was talking about as far as retirement and how we stress the importance of making sure that when you get married, you focus on retirement, because what is happening here in today's and day and age in the United States is the fact that inflation is taking up your cost of living, your savings, even your retirement savings. So when you retire, that money that you have been saving today is worth less, if not worthless, but
Yeah.
worth less by the
At
time
this rate.
by the time you retire. So what my wife is illustrating here is that they said the earliest eligible retirement age of 62 will see a 43% cut in their full benefits.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is that if you choose to retire early, they're going to cut your Social Security almost in half.
43%. When 90 people are using 90% of Social Security to maintain their life.
Yeah, that's because they're saving wrong for retirement. It's not supposed to, Social Security is not supposed to cover 90% of your retirement funds.
Right.
And you're supposed to build if you're fortunate enough. Now I understand that everyone is not.
Right.
You're supposed to save up in an IRA fund, a 401k fund, and hopefully your job does a cash match to a certain percentage.
And investments.
And if you have any assets or investments along the way, including a savings, your own personal savings, and then you rely also on Social Security. Now there's something called a retirement gap, which they are increasing even more since they're trying to get people to retire when they're 70. And that included a part-time job. And in order to protect you from having to work until 95, your assets, if you have any type of investment properties, those are what's going to cover you. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to run out of money by the time you turn 95.
Right. And that actually leads us to the next article that I wanted to make sure to point out. Share this tab instead. So we're just going to look at Gen X men and Gen X women and the median retirement savings. So
to put it in perspective.
Yeah, to really put it in perspective, and why I'm really pointing out younger generation in particular, because this is a generation that needs this knowledge, I think, more than ever, because of the lack of it being talked about and prioritized, and not understanding what could happen if you don't look to protect yourself in the long run. And for my young ladies, I was there. I remember that. I was at the risk of being homeless as a young teenage girl on the street. I know, I'm telling you, I understand the feeling. So with that, it's very, very important to connect with that inner divinity and where God really does provide an opportunity of protection for you, and prioritize this. It is so you can do so much more. Your life doesn't stop after you get married and have kids. That's such a limited mindset. It annoys me, but people think how they want to think. But in particular, marriage provides women with so many protections that women really cannot afford to discredit anymore. Like, right. You can't afford it.
I mean, not to also forget that a lot of people take it for granted. A lot of women take it for granted. Marriage, men take it for granted. But we're coming into some times that are very unprecedented. And the reason being is because we have a technology overlay that's different than the last Great Depression. We do also have opportunities that we don't take seriously in this society, and in relation to retirement. And we'll continue to talk more about what that means as far as those opportunities not being taken.
Right.
Especially with this article here.
Right. And in particular, this is, again, where our focus is mainly women for tonight. Usually we talk about a lot of both, but I really want to hit on the women because in particular, women fall behind. Okay.
No, go back up.
Typical,
yeah.
Okay. According to a new report by the National Institute on Retirement Security, the typical Gen X household has only $40,000 in retirement savings. The median account balance for the Gen X individual is only $10,000. This article came out August 11, 2023. This is the median we're talking about right now.
So what does that mean? That means that millennials, we on average, we're saving.
Well, Gen X and
Yeah, Gen X is millennials.
Oh yeah.
We're saving. We only have 40 at this moment in time. The average amount of money you have for retirement is $40,000. $40,000. So at this pace, by the time you retire, that will only be about $120,000. In reality, what you need is 90% of your income by the time you retire. That is not $120,000.
And minding you, we're living longer now. We're living
With
on
higher
average
inflation.
80, some reach up to 90.
With higher inflation,
With
when you
higher
have
inflation,
$2,000 rent that's going to eat up that $120,000, your medical bills, other expenses, utility costs, grocery bills, and et cetera, et cetera. $120,000 is not going to get you to 95 and keep a roof over your head.
No.
With the looming loss of Social Security funds as well, that they keep trying to scrape together and trying to figure out every year, every budget proposal, where that money is going to come from.
Right.
So it behooves me for people to not think on wanting to get married just to have a secured retirement.
Working together
right.
for that.
So do you all not care? Or do you all have not thought of it? So hopefully you all have not thought of this and then choose the route of marriage. And why marriage? But I'm going to let you go ahead and just dissect this so that we can answer that question later.
Yeah, for sure. So this was a study that was done, and the study showed a distinct gender disparity in retirement readiness. So unfortunately, women fall behind men in every measure of retirement preparedness. The report stated that women have a lower annual earnings, a lower net worth, and are more likely to fall short of savings targets. I witnessed this firsthand with my mother. She was a single woman. Mind you, okay, keep in mind, I had already asked myself as a woman, how do you protect yourself? In my mind, I knew getting married, especially seeing my mother in her predicament as a single woman, an older single woman. Unfortunately, the reality is that this leaves women in a much vulnerable position in older age. I mean, can you really imagine working every day nonstop for the rest of your life in order to make it through life? And this not in counting, this is talking about you got to be in good health. You can't get in no accidents. You can't have, you got to stay working the whole time in order to sustain yourself, hopefully into the rest of life, which could be a very, 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 hopefully long time. So yeah, this is just showing in particular how underprepared households can be as far as looking for the long term of what your life is going to look like and making decisions in the now that are going to help protect you and set you up for things to be successful for you. And if not, this kind of brings us to one more article. Oh, go ahead.
No, there's some more great statistics in that article.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back and share that one more time.
If you read the next paragraph, and it states that
the median savings. Okay.
So next it talks about the actual.
Let me pull it up. Sorry.
The mean and median for women. So the mean, of course, you all know is the average. So it's the sum divided by the amount of number of women that they've surveyed. And then the mode, which is the most occurring number, is by far the most savings, or the dollar amount that most women actually have. So what they're saying here is the average private retirement account balance for Gen X men and women are $156,333 and $101,497. So I was not that far off. So that's with that being said, that is the savings that on average our millennial people, us, are going to have by the time we retire if we are not proactive by utilizing other opportunities for retirement. But as you can see in the statistics, that women make less. 40,000, they have roughly 40,000 less in savings by the time they retire versus men. as opposed to if you see a couple, if you add both of these numbers together, you get roughly around 250 some $1,000 for retirement funds. I would rather have that instead of 156 as a man, 156,000, as opposed to a woman who has 101,000 respectively.
Right.
So the median retirement savings here, this currently right now for women is $6,000. So out of that 10,000 that I said they accounted for men and women, women only have roughly right now. That's sad. I'm sorry not to laugh at that. Roughly $6,000 in their retirement savings. That's bad. And because mostly what our Gen Z people are, we're in our 30s, approaching our 40s. So if not, we're already in our early 40s. So the men have 13,000. So as you can see, that men naturally in the workforce make more money than women do still, even to today. So by the retirement outlook for all genders currently right now is looking very bleak.
Yeah.
As this article is saying.
Yeah.
So you have to really take marriage seriously when it comes to retirement. The goals for marriage is retirement. Of course, you want to raise a family, buy a house, and retire comfortably.
Yeah.
That is fading away here in America. And I don't know how else to express that to the viewers and people out here. And I don't mean to be so, grim and dark about this topic, but it's something that we need to take very seriously, especially if we want to retire one day. I don't know about you all. I don't want to be a Walmart greeter. No offense to Walmart greeters, but that is not part of my retirement plan. I would like to retire, even though my grandparents did not retire. They pretty much aged out of the system. They worked as much as they can, and my grandfather cut grass until he could not cut grass anymore. I don't want to be working past the age of 65 if I can help it. I don't want to work past the age of 62. And it's not because I'm lazy, it's because I want my money to work for me. So there are things that you can do out there. And it starts by first building a perfect union between a man and a woman. And you all work together towards your goals, create financial goals. If you don't know any, ask us and find out ways that you can save extra monies in order to save it for retirement, not spend it for trips. Because evidently what this is telling us that we don't have money for trips anymore. Those lavish vacations and things that you all are taking on your summer breaks and all that, more than likely you need to bank that for your retirement, because you're going to wish you did by the time you turn 65 and what they're saying now is 70, the age 70 to retire without Social Security.
Yeah. And as stated here, retirement becomes more and more expensive with each successive generation as Americans continue to live longer. You cannot, understate this. This is so important. Of course, this is kind of maybe the angle y'all didn't think we was going to take. But I'm going to tell you why we took this angle. Because of this article right here, June 30th, 2023. And this broke my heart when I seen it. So when I stayed in my mind. More baby boomers are retiring homeless. Could it happen to you? Why am I saying? What are we talking about? Why does this apply to women needing protection? Well, women by far are the most vulnerable members of society when you put them, especially on the street. And marriage, statistically, is a way to prevent this from happening. Lots of studies, we're going to go through them, but in particular, let's talk about how this is happening. This is real. This is a reality. People have to take their retirement seriously, their old age seriously, like preparing. What are you going to say? I thought you could say something. So this article talks about, in particular, we're going to jump through down. I'm going to skim through it. Individuals with late onset homelessness tend to have lived in poverty throughout their adult lives, despite long work histories, albeit in low-paying jobs. So this study, published on its website, the American Society on Aging, noted that the survey participants who became homeless after age 50 had suffered setbacks such as job loss, illnesses, divorce, death of your spouse, partner, or parent. With little savings, facing difficulty finding work as an older adult, and having the ability to compete in an unforgiving housing market, they face homelessness for the first time. How many of y'all been seeing them TikTok videos of these girls and men, all types of people, just talking about how expensive these housing prices are? Rent is going up outrageously, and I feel so sorry for people who are experiencing this shortage of affordable housing. It's so unfortunate. I've had family members be homeless. Like I said before, as a young girl, I was on the brink of experiencing this myself. So I understand not only in particular how vulnerable a woman can be when put in this position. It's really a really unfortunate thing that women just really have to look at the overall picture of what's going on and take into account what they're saying. What are the statistics? We went over the article just coming out today talking about how Social Security is looking grim, looking bleak. We don't know if it's going to be there. We don't know what. Then on top of that, you got the economy. People are having a hard time saving, doing the single. It's harder. And then on top of that, you look at the baby boomers, the oldest population. What's happening to them? We're seeing the direct result of all of this, and they, truth be told, kind of had a better start than a lot of this younger generation coming up in is having. I think the economy was much easier for the baby boomers when they're, young and prime time.
Correction, Gen X are the generation before us. So
yeah,
our
before
parents.
us. Yeah.
We're Gen Y, and then you got Z. So it's millennials are Y.
I don't ever know all that stuff, the generation thing. It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, X is the 60s, people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, millennials 80s, 90s, and then Z's are 2000 and above. So
yeah,
in relation to that article about the generations.
Yeah. It really hurts my heart seeing 30-year-old women on the street. Wow, that's more common now more than ever. Like, you see homeless women out there,
And then also to pay attention to these videos that people post. A lot of them are done in their cars and their vehicles because why? They actually live in those vehicles. Where if you all haven't paid attention to that.
Right. And also too, homelessness can look like couch surfing, right? So at least you are able to couch surf between maybe friends or family or whatever the case may be, but you are still, in a very vulnerable space. And all we're saying is that one of the main ways that God has put in place to protect women, that women cannot shy away from, cannot afford to not prioritize, especially in this time, is being married. Homeless women in particular are at a high risk of experiencing violence, exploitation, and abuse, and not to mention they are 10 times more likely to be victims of human trafficking. So please just take in consideration as a young woman, especially, and then even to older women. If you are not married, it's definitely within your best interest to try to get with the man who is also probably about to be retiring. So maybe y'all can combine y'all, come in love, commitment, and combine y'all assets and be able to make it together. At least if y'all, can't both work full time, y'all both can work part time and take care of each other on the other part time. It's a lot easier to figure out how to make things work, and especially in older age, if you have someone to do it with. We are not meant to be alone. We really, really are not.
I mean, also too, more importantly, women have to want to be intentional about marriage.
Yeah.
Bottom line, the fun is over. All this being single stuff, and I don't, being with a man is a headache type talk. And these career women out here who think that they can get it on their own, by all means, if that is what you think and that's best for you, by all means, go ahead. But what we're giving you is a fair warning. And that fair warning is explaining to you, more than likely, because you are not excluded from the average population, what is going to happen
and what is happening to a lot of people now,
and what is happening to people now. So and that means not saving enough for retirement because you all are drinking it away, partying it away, vacationing it away, And then all of a sudden, by the time you hit 70 or 65, you're wondering why my rent is not paid, what happened to my medicine, and where am I going to eat? These are
Yeah.
the real challenges that are happening here in this country that we call the United States. So we just wanted to bestow this wisdom upon you all so that you all will be better prepared,
Yeah.
and especially women, because this whole movement of women not wanting or needing men for anything is a lie. It is a complete lie. Don't fall for it. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. But more so,
You're denying God's protection.
make
That's what I
yourself
feel like.
make yourself marriage
Sorry.
fit. Make
Yeah.
yourself marriage fit to be in a serious situation with a man in which you can grow. And what we mean by grow, you grow physically, spiritually, and financially.
Yeah, all types of ways.
Make sure your man is able to do these things with you as well.
Right.
And if he is, and for those young women out there who are in those relationship with boys, hopefully you can get this message to them and they will understand it. And if not, then you need to find a man. Find a man who will provide and protect for you. This is a fair warning. So these are situations and things that are happening, like my wife said. And so all this information is current.
Yeah, very, very, very current. And now we're in a more volatile state than we've ever been before as an economy, as a society. It's now more than ever super important that a woman does what she can to protect herself. And being married is one of the surefire ways. And of course, like my husband says, we would not encourage getting married if we are not going to offer the advice on how to do that and go about this in the right way. So, of course, that's why wifeconomics.com was created, for more in-depth 7-week look at this. But also, aside from that, that's why we do this Monday through Friday, to help offer the assistance on how you can go about, as a man and as a woman, going about marriage in the right way. Because as we see, it's just as important for men to want to do this with the woman, especially if you aren't a top earner. You should have a spouse right near you, especially if you're having two incomes and you're able to work together to actually get to those financial goals that we're talking about in particular.
Right. You said two incomes. So here's the thing. Someone said, good morning. All right. You must be on the other side of the world.
Peace,
But
peace,
with
peace.
that
Good
being,
morning.
but the thing is this: if you do need a 2-person income in order to make it to retirement, or either make half of that money, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
to make half of the retirement money. So that means that you need 2 full-time jobs. I don't think y'all hear me. You need 2 full-time jobs. If you're not working 2 full-time jobs right now, then more than likely you're going to come up short in your retirement goals. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just being blatantly honest with you. So women, those career women out there who think they're getting it on their own, they're just fine and dandy about their 60, 70, $80,000 income. Guess what? You need another one of those. So right when you get off that one job, you need to go back to another full-time night job in order to make it to retirement, because you chose not to be in a relationship with a man.
That's
with
the
your
reality.
husband.
That's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, just being honest with you, that's what that looks like.
Really. And this is not the funnest topic to talk about usually, but I think it's one of the most important topics to talk about, because this is so important, so important, aside from anything else. But, let's go a little further on how marriage can protect a woman, right? So we talked about the financial benefits. Y'all get that. Marriage also can certainly protect a woman from violence and sexual assault. This goes right into that whole Brickgate scandal thing and everything that's all going on. How do you get that protection? You're married, of course. That is the number one way. Men often think twice about messing with a woman who is married, certainly if her husband's there. But not only that, how many times can you, as a woman, I'm married, and the man be like, all right, back off naturally. It's more likely to happen. But even more on a kind of going back to the taking advantage in a financial way, how many of y'all know the women who go to the mechanic, and the woman, if she don't really know much or have any guidance from a man who can tell her a little further about what this mechanic is saying, the mechanic would take a surefire advantage of her because she don't know no better. that happens. It happens a lot, a whole lot. So, just in general, marriage will certainly protect a woman and provide her with that safe space of guidance, of support, and other ways, minus the financial. And we'll dig on into these a little bit more. But I really, of course, when you think about the whole wanting protection on the street, the whole conversation of what's going on, women just really have to know that a man is not obligated to really protect you unless you're his. You're under that covenant of his protection. That's
Well, I mean,
just how it goes.
I think that any real man will go out there and protect any woman in a
Yeah.
time of need, to be honest with you. But what we're preaching about is deeper than that. You know, not even in the street or whatever the case may be. We're talking, you know, getting back on that financial aspect of it. You know, women are the number one consumers in the United States. If anything, we all know that Black women are by far the leading consumers overall. So, with that being said, you know, going back to the retirement aspect, what are they doing in order to fulfill their roles of being wives and understand, and also too, do they understand the importance of marriage?
Yeah, and how marriage for men can also, well, marriage in particular with a man can provide that budget friendly financial security where a man, you know, is sometimes more disciplined and will help make better financial decisions, and of course be smarter about money, especially if he's a little more aware of what's going on in that aspect. But certainly, yeah, marriage will overall just protect that woman in that space of knowing things to look out for. I always think about out in the woods when we live in the country. So rural areas, you're very equipped of knowing how to survive out here. When you always think about, I don't mean any harm, but our new neighbor who moved in from the city, from a city woman coming out here to a rural area. When you take a woman outside of that aspect of being able to be provided with water, not having to cut grass, not having to take care of a house and all these other things, it can be a struggle not knowing how to do those things. And it's really hard to maintain life outside of that rural, outside of that city environment of everything being provided for you through the government or, your city or whatever. So that's certainly one thing that a woman has to really take in consideration and think about, especially for the long-term scheme of things and reality of what life looks like.
Yeah. So another topic, another point, marriage can provide emotional protection, of course, and support in a number of ways. So unconditional love, married couples are committed to loving each other unconditionally. So this means that they are accepting who they are, their flaws and all, and this can provide a sense of emotional security and support, especially during difficult times.
Yeah. That's important when I think about going on a deeper level of that emotional protection, right? So, women, we are emotional beings. We're vulnerable to that. Sometimes, of course, can be taken advantage of, like we had talked about before. But not only that, when we go through things, it's really difficult to go through them alone. It's always nice when you have that emotional security, that emotional support from your spouse, and you know that, hey, I'm not having to go through this alone. How many, you think about the COVID time where women were now alone within their place, and that can, you just really mess with your mind. Not for one, just the, what is it when you're staying in your house, cabin fever, right? How cabin fever can play tricks on your mind, but then also how you look at the aspect of when you get into, just being alone, and how that equates to like, what they said, like 15 cigarettes a day for loneliness for the
after
longest,
the age of 65,
after the age of 65,
and that's your retirement age.
So you're looking at that time of being spent alone, all by yourself for, however many years, especially if you're retired by yourself,
right,
actually dealing with that.
Right. And not to mention also, like we were saying, you live less. Married people live longer, single people live less.
Yeah, because of that, having that, not having that emotional support, that emotional security, that someone to lean on and talk to and be accepted for, that unconditional love. That is a really, really, I think,
I meant live shorter.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
I know you when you think about it. Yeah. But that's really unconditional love is really a beautiful thing that will help you feel more fulfilled within your life. And genuinely, I think that's what a lot of people really are missing. So, cannot underestimate what a good relationship would do to your overall being. But also, married couples are able to empathize with each other. So this certainly helps it easier, again, to be able to resolve conflicts. And you're talking about going through, anytime y'all have like financial things going on. So say one spouse loses their job, another spouse is able to provide some type of support from that. Or if you're like going through some other type of conflict, a spouse is able to help provide as a witness sometimes, depending on how serious it is, or just again that support. So having someone around always serves as a layer of protection that a woman just won't receive not being in a relationship. So please really consider what we're saying. Really, really consider that. But I think the last part of this overall conversation, when we're talking about in general being married and the protection that it provides, in particular, the protection also goes along with a sense of belonging. I think having, not only do you get the legal benefits of being married to someone, one in particular, coming from, as a woman coming from a single family household, I struggled with not having an identity per se, because I didn't really, wasn't connected to my mother too much, and then not having my father. So losing that sense of identity was tough. But when you get married, it offers that opportunity to then step into and create a whole new family. So this can really serve as a source of healing and provide a safe place for a woman to be vulnerable, especially in this time. There's a lot of, my story is, not rare. It's a lot of single women who grew up in single parent households.
Of course.
Yeah. So from that, just in general, being able to have this space of being vulnerable, being able to share your deepest thoughts, your deepest feelings, being able to process difficult emotions with someone, release that trauma, actually build trust, and receive that confidence that comes from actually having an identity with your spouse is huge and certainly cannot be understated. And that also provides that layer of protection that I think a woman needs in order to really feel, especially coming from a broken home, but really feel whole and secure within herself. Creates a whole new family. And that, again, that's just me as a woman thinking personally what that benefit really meant for me. So if you happen to have came from a single family household, to really consider how marriage could really just elevate your mind, your body, and provide you with that security that you're really, really looking for, missing. Yeah. That's all I got, though, for the most part, that I could think of to really dig on in. Again, I wanted to take a different angle, not so much of, just, a man. Of course, we know men are supposed to protect women. And a good man, like my husband said, will do that. So I do want to make a note to say thank you to all the righteous, amazing men, husbands, fathers out there who are out there protecting women all around you. Thank you for what you do. Genuinely, we appreciate you. We know you exist. And now, in particular, I just want any woman who is actually out here seeking protection, asking yourself, who's going to protect women? I really encourage you to take the time out to learn what a good husband is. We have lots and lots of videos on this. Wifeconomics.com was created for this. Find out what a good husband looks like, what it means to be a wife, and really how you can protect yourself as a woman in the way that God, I genuinely believe, put in place for us to be protected. And that's within the institution of marriage.
All right. I mean, and more importantly, I just have one question for the women who don't want to get married. And that question is, how are you going to save $1.5 million?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
I know, yeah.
How are you going to save that $1.5 million for yourself in order for you to actually retire safely? If that is the life that you want to choose as far as being single, in this day and age, which is a dangerous thing, how are you going to do that? Because you know why? You owe that to yourself. if that's the decision that you make, that is also your accountability and your responsibility to figure out your retirement plan. So, with that being said, anybody, do you all have any questions, concerns, comments, anything that you would like to challenge us on? And speak now or forever hold your peace.
Oh yeah, I wish I could scream. We're a little different tonight. Like we said, our internet was janky, so I can't really. Full house on Instagram. Peace, Instagram. Yeah, it's a little hard to see our comments and stuff tonight, but nonetheless, this was an important topic. I think, in my honest opinion, it's probably not our funnest topic. Probably not one of the ones that gets your entertainment flowing, going, but hopefully got your mind thinking.
Right. There's a shock and awe in order for people who suffer from shock and awe. You need to shake them up in order for them to hear or be receptive to the message. And so that is something that we are focusing more on, to be honest with you. I love these type of topics, to be honest with you, because it adds a value and then also inspiration and hope, to be honest with you. To people who are living just, this going with whatever without any plan or strategy. So hopefully this message gets out to those people who need it, and particularly those single people who are out there thinking that they are getting it. They're just, making all this money and they're going to be fine and currently living fine if you think so. But I know people who are approaching retirement age, and especially women, and they are nervous, to be honest with you. They own homes they're still paying on. Retirement doesn't look so close like they want it to be, but they still take trips. And had they fixed this stuff a long time ago, they would not be in the situation that they're currently in. So with that being said, good people, thank you all for coming out, Blueprint family, and until next time.
Oh.